Welcome, everyone. This is Cecile of mommyEvolve. I am the creative director, the founder, and CEO of mommyEvolve. And I am here today to share some information with you about mommyEvolve, what mommyEvolve is, and what mommyEvolve is here to do. Because I know that it's a pretty name, and me to be about healing and truth and knowledge. But I do want to have a little conversation with you all. And so, as you know, mommyEvolve is a women's empowerment company, and we are about having women heal their relationships with their mothers and heal themselves, as well as heal forward into future generations with children if they have children, and just live more towards their whole authentic and healed selves instead of living in the past and living from what I would call an inner child. And excuse the glare on my glasses. It's nothing, I can't help it. I wear glasses, otherwise I basically can't see. Right? Anyway, so I blend concepts, or I use both concepts of psychotherapy, such as inner child work, and mix that with coaching principles to help women heal their historical, familial and mother wounds. And so you're probably thinking, well, dang, girl, where this come from? Well, it's been my own personal work. It's work that I realized that even though I had been going through all of these processes to heal, I had been doing all kinds of healing work, that I still had a mother wound that I needed to heal, and that I still had something deeper that I needed to look at in order to really pinpoint and clarify and find out how I could use those tools from my healing to really heal that central theme in my experience. So again, where did this all come from? Me being someone I am a lover of history. I love history. I love psychology. I love anything that has to do with healing, and various modalities of healing, from talk therapy to Reiki to water therapy, all of it, sound therapy, all of these things. But none of these things are impactful unless you speak the truth about what is ailing you. And the mother wound, familial wounds, and historical wounds are things that lay dormant because we don't want to look at those things, or we think we're so far removed from them, or there's negative societal thought about doing that kind of work. Right? So if you say that you're healing the pain that your mother caused you, you'll probably hear a lot of people say, oh, your mother did the best that she could. And while that may have been the truth for many of us, the reality is that you still suffered a wound. So you must be real with yourself and say that, you know what, I need to come to an understanding of how I'm going to heal this. And that is okay. mommyEvolve is here to fill in that gap for women, right? And so we do that in a multitude of ways, much of which is through just speaking the truth, finding out stories of our mothers, being true with our mothers about our stories and our pains, creating boundaries if necessary, looking at the ways in which our upbringing has affected and continues to trigger our current existence, and make a plan to move forward. So today we're going to talk about a lot of different things because there's layers to Mommy Evolve, obviously, right? So there's the layer of, talking about your relationship with your mother and healing that if you need to. And quite frankly, in some way, many of us need to, because it is just, and we're going to talk about why that is. But when you are raised by someone, if most women or people were raised by their fathers, there would be a father wound, right? There would be a more deep father wound for some of us. But because most of us are raised by our mothers, and not only that, but the mother concept and having a mother and the way that mother is defined and depicted creates this higher expectation for mothers and what they are required to do. And we're going to talk about that. And I call that the mother concept. The mother concept is what we think about when we consider our mothers, mothering, motherhood, and even what it means to be a child, how we defined our childhood based on this perfection that we place on our mothers. In our society, mother is a figure that gives everything to everyone, all her time, all her energy, and she loves it. But let's get real here. We know that the images that we see, or the image that we think of about mothers, now that we're older and some of us have our own children, we know that that was a contrived image. That was the image that we had to prop up because we needed that in order to survive. I mean, who isn't going to look up? What child is not going to look up at the adults around them and think, oh my goodness, they should be perfect, or what they are doing is perfect? Because that's just what a child thinks. My daughter thinks that I am the epitome of a great mom right now. And I'll run with that. I certainly do my best, and she certainly is a privileged young woman because her mother has grown herself and healed herself in many ways. So I'm able to nurture her in ways that even myself was not nurtured. But there are still holes there. There are still things that I am working through, and there are still things that I'm not going to do perfectly. Right? And I'm very honest with myself about that. And I think that that is probably what draws the line between myself and many of our mothers, and many of you and many of your mothers, that is different. We are not trying to put up the facade. Many of us, anyway, are not trying to put up the facade anymore. We're real. We're honest about the fact that we are imperfect. We're real. We're honest about the fact that we are healing. And I love that. So even though we live in a society where we were told that mothers should be perfect, we quickly realized that was not true. It started to unravel. Right? Especially as an adult, when we grow up and we start to reason better and we start to understand better and we start to compare stories and notes and start to develop our own value system aside from the one that we grew up with. All of those things affect our changed ideas about our mother and creates conflict. Many young girls, teenagers, have conflicts with their mothers, even adult women, not just teenagers. Adult women have conflicts with their mothers because I feel that once we get to a certain age, there's certain things. First of all, we're cutting out our own cloth and how we're doing things. And of course, our mothers have their idea of how things should be done. And so the conflicts are created, right? And some of that is because our mother wants us to be able to survive. But we see survival differently in our changing world because we do live in a world where we are much more liberated. There's certain things that we could do that our mothers wouldn't even consider a possibility. And I think that sometimes as daughters, we forget that. We forget that our mothers grew up in an era where they felt that they had to do certain things, and there weren't many people who were doing things differently, many women who were doing things differently, and those who were just considered the exception. Now, the exception is those women who are not doing something different, because there's so many who are doing something different. And a lot of these conflicts between mother and daughters creates shame and guilt. You know, I had a lot of shame and guilt about thinking the way that I thought about certain topics around my mother. And I learned that that shame and guilt was keeping me from living the truth of my own life. Because, of course, when you have shame and guilt, you stop yourself from doing things fully, right? You stop yourself short. And, of course, I didn't want to burden my mother with what I thought, because I didn't want her to feel like I was being disrespectful, or I was being an ungrateful child, or any of those things that we know that people say when you express your own opinion, especially as a child to a parent. And that's very difficult. And I know that there are so many women out there who want to express their truth with their parent and do it in a way that is safe. I know that there are women out there who have done it and still are going through this feeling of guilt and shame anyway. And that is something that that you shouldn't have to go through, or something that can be softened. The blow can be softened when you are able to talk it out with people who understand and who get this process. Well, that's one layer of Mommy Evolve. The other layer is how we relate to our childhood memories. The inner child work is huge, right? Because, oh my goodness, we all are triggered. We are all triggered. I am just now working through personally, well, not just now, but I have been working through and unlayering more layers of certain childhood hurts. Financial ones around self-worth, ones around beauty. These things are in the process of unlayering. Ones around freedom, right? Because when you are a person who in spiritual sovereignty, that's a huge one. Because if you grew up in the church, or if many of us grew up with the thought process that we had to go to work and have a job in order to be successful, or, we don't have people in our families who are businesswomen. There's a lot of, or business people. There are a lot of expectations from people financially. And that is a conversation in and of itself about how to blaze when you have different ideas about various things concerning finances and things like that, and what you should be able to do with your finances. Those are very important conversations to have and to think about and to talk about, because I believe that these are commonalities with us. Now, once we realize these things, and once we pinpoint the things that come up for us, how do we handle them? Do we, sweep them under the rug and just say, oh, it doesn't matter? Or do we have sustained conversation and ways to clear ourselves of this burden, of this wound? That's the question. This is the main message, or one of the main message of Mommy Evolve, is that we need to destroy these generational cycles, and that the ability to destroy those cycles is not only very possible, but it starts with you. because all of these things that I'm described that are generational curses, such as the spiritual sovereignty, the financial freedom, the health, and maybe even health issues. But I've come to realize that a lot of it is spiritual and emotional, based on inner child work and needs, and being able to really think about those things and how they come up, how they trigger your life, and how they speak to your growth, your need to grow out of the mindset that you had when you were younger, that survival mindset of whatever that may be. It can come up in so many different forms. It could be about your ideas about freedom and justice and love and what that looks like, etc. So there could be so many different things that these generational curses, for lack of a better word, because they are curses, because you see them coming up in you, in not just you, but also in your child, if you have a child, or you see it going backwards. You saw it in your mother, and that very thing that you were trying to run away from, to not be like your mother, you start to be like her. I've noticed all of those things in myself, and so I had to look at it from the perspective of, I didn't want this to continue to go forward. It's not cute. It's not something that is doing justice to my family, and it is holding my bloodline back from expansion. And that's what it's really about. It's about expansion. And at some point, we have to realize that our wisdom and our knowledge that we gain through the years of modifying our actions and doing things better and better is what makes us wiser, and what grows us, and what gives us the energetic imprint of that thing. So if you had a grandmother that was diplomatic, that's an energy that is going to be passed on through your family. If your family, if you come from an entrepreneurial family, that's an energy that is imprinted on your DNA that is going to be passed on to your children. And you're going to display that through your actions, so that children see you, your children see you doing that. I'm going to be honest with you. As I've been going through my own work and doing my own work, one of the things that I used to notice about myself was that I would react a lot to people. And that was because I would get triggered by people asking me questions, because I felt like they were doubting me. They were doubting my abilities. And at some point in my healing, I had to realize that that had to do with my own inner self-worth. And unfortunately, a couple of years ago, I saw it in my daughter. And that was really a point of wake up for me. Like, how am what I'm doing affecting my child? And then once I realized it in myself, I started to even see it going backwards, seeing it in my mother, and thinking about how it manifested in other family members as well. It's real. But once we recognize these things and we get real honest with the fact that, yes, these things affect us, that's when we can heal it, and we can destroy and dismantle those generational curses. And I don't say break generational curses, because anything that is broken can be put back together. You have to destroy that thing. I mean, to the point where you know that that is an issue, and you talk to your children when they get to the age where they can understand it about it. Like, this is something that I had to heal in myself. So if you find it coming up in you, just know that you can heal that too. Like, we really need to start having those conversations. But that may be a little bit too far ahead. So one of the things that I am doing starting September 18th, I am accepting 15 people for a Evolve the Inner Mother group coaching class. It is a teleclass that is done over the phone and the internet. You will get an hour and a half of group coaching for 4 Sundays. You will get 1 hour individually of coaching throughout the entire experience. So 15 minutes a week just to check in, just to see what's going on and coming up for you individually. You will get mommyEvolve, Mommy Time products, which are self-care products for you to try throughout your journey, because I deeply encourage self-care on another level during this time. So going out and doing things for self-care that you've never done, but you've been saying that you're going to do, that is going to be required, because when you are going through a healing process, you have to have the energy move around in your body and move. Otherwise, it becomes stagnant and it affects you mentally and spiritually. But that's another conversation for us to have at another time. So there's 4 modules. Facing childhood hurts and understanding your mother's pain is the first module. Okay, and that module is the setup. Before you even start the program, you get an assignment that you come to that first class with. It's very deep and intense, I have to say. Okay, intense mentally, because you're going to have to bring out a lot of things, speak a lot of things that you may not have had the courage to speak. Another part of that is going to be speaking to your mother about her own history and things from her past. And you'll be coached through that, because there's a specific methodology that I have for that. It is not like you roll up on your mom and be like, hey, girl, I need to know some stuff. No, we're not doing that. The second module is processing pain, guilt, shame, anger, and grief, and transforming old stories. Yeah. The third module is processing emotions continued, but this one is about forgiveness. Forgiveness and compassion, actually, because you're going to require a lot of compassion for yourself and for your for the women in your bloodline and for other people in general. That love and compassion is necessary, not forgiveness. And the last module is from pain to pre-eminence. Taking that pain, any hurts, anything that you may have been through, and turning it into your pre-eminence, turning it into your pot of gold for your life. Turning it into a story that you are no longer afraid to share, because you know it has no power over you. And those are the 4 modules. And again, I'm looking for 15 people. We start September 18th. I look forward to having you join me. You can go to my website, mommyEvolve.com, mommyevolve.com. You can also, and from there you can go to the services, the mentoring services tab, and you can click on the Evolve the Inner Mother store, and you can look at that and purchase that. I have a special for the first 5 people that sign up. Of course, I have a good deal for you. Okay, so email me. The first 5 people to email me will get a discounted price. And don't be shy to email me, even if you don't think that you are the 5th person. Take a leap, because you never know what is happening behind the scenes with mommyEvolve. We have so many things coming up. I'm so excited. I'm so excited about all of the stuff that we have coming up, because this is a leap for me, and but I'm living out my passions and doing something that I love. Women's empowerment and women's growth is something that I've always been about, and so I'm here to share the journey that I've been through with you. Oh, I forgot to tell you, sign up for my newsletter. It's dope. It's real dope. And thank you. Thank you for spending this time with me and listening to me. If you have any questions, drop it below. Comments, drop it below. Or you can just email me, mommyEvolve@gmail.com. That's MOMEVOLVE@gmail.com. And I look forward to connecting with you. The Evolve the Inner Mother class is going to be life-changing, life-breaking, because I promise you the information that you receive, the activities that you receive are things that you're going to use for the rest of your life. It is recorded. The calls are recorded, so you get those recordings, as well as many other components to this. And so you do not want to miss this. And again, thank you so much for listening and staying connected with me. I appreciate you. Take care. Bye-bye.